When you think about networking, does the image that pops in your head hold you back? Does it stop you from networking? Does it make you feel like networking is something you don't want to do? If so, I'm going to help you change that image in this episode. I'm Greg, I'm the Introverted Networker, and today I want to talk about the moment when I changed my mental image about networking and how it changed everything I felt about networking. I'm standing in the middle of a shotgun range on the plains of eastern Colorado. I don't know a single person here. I just lost my job, and a guy I don't know handed me a shotgun and said, just have a little fun with it. It's late October 2012. A vendor I used to work with invited me to a sporting clays networking event. It's kind of like golf, but with shotguns. I've never done this before, and I'm not very good at it. But as bad as I was at shooting, I found it was easier to break the clay pigeons than to break the ice with the other participants. But I'm here because I need a job. And everybody I've talked to says you need to get out and network more. So here I am. I've got to spend 3 hours pretending I belong, making awkward small talk, trying to explain to people why I'm suddenly unemployed. When I got done with the event, I got back in my car and I remember sitting there just staring at the steering wheel. And I remember thinking to myself, there has got to be a better way to network. That was the moment that it changed for me, because I left that event and I said, I'm going to find a better way. I'm not going to force myself into rooms I don't want to be in, doing things with people that felt fake. And so that's when I started coming up with a new approach to networking. That new approach led me to my next job, and then to my next one, and to my next one. Basically, every job since then has come through networking. People started asking me how I did it. They would say things like, you seem really well connected, but you never go to networking events. How do you do that? I started teaching them. I wrote a book called The Fast and Easy Guide to Networking for Introverts. I started writing my weekly newsletter, The Introverted Networker. I've coached hundreds of people on how to create real professional relationships in a way that feels natural to them without them having to be someone they're not. And it all started in that moment on the shotgun range where I said to myself, there has to be a better way. That was what changed networking for me. And if you think of networking and you immediately picture something like that, maybe it's not a sporting clay range, but maybe you think of networking like this. This is the mental image you get of it, because this is one that I had in my head as well at this time. To me, when I thought of networking, the image that popped in my head was walking into a room full of people I don't know. And there's high top tables all around, and people are gathered around them, and they have their drinks and their food on the tables, and they're already in circles talking to each other. And I would try to think of ways to break into these groups, break into these conversations without it feeling awkward. And that was something I could never do. So what would happen to me if I actually did go to these events, I would find a corner and back into it and hope somebody would come and talk to me, have mercy on me and come talk to me. And sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. But basically, these were a waste of time for me. The other thing I think of, or I used to think of when I would hear the word networking, is like a country club, playing golf, having to go spend several hours with people I was trying to network with, having to laugh at their jokes that weren't funny, or having to, just hang out with people I didn't really want to be with because they're part of the club I'm supposed to be a part of. And if that's how you feel about it, if that's what you see, I would challenge you and say that's probably why you don't like networking. That's probably why you say to yourself, I know I should do it, but I just can't get to it, or I don't want to, or it feels awkward, or I don't have time, or I don't know where to start, or all the objections people give me when I ask them why they don't network. So it's this image we have in networking, but I would say if that image changed, would it change how you felt about networking? Would you be more likely to do it if you changed that image in your head? Because those images stopped me from networking for years. I didn't want to do that. I thought it was the only way to do it. That's why I said yes to the Sporting Clays networking event, because I thought that was how I was going to get a job. And what I learned when I changed my mind, when I said, I'm not doing that, I rejected that image. I rejected that approach. I said, I'm going to do it a different way. And when I found another way to do it, I realized that you can network without going into a crowded room. So what if it was just a one-on-one conversation? What if your image of networking was two people sitting down talking to each other? And maybe they're having coffee, maybe they're having lunch. But what if it was somebody you already knew, or somebody who you had been introduced to, not a total stranger, not somebody you're trying to pretend to be something that you're not, or somebody you're not trying to impress, but somebody you're just sitting down and having a conversation with. And maybe it's a discussion over a coffee. You know, maybe you imagine it and you're sitting in a coffee shop and you're just sitting there talking over the table. Or maybe it's a phone call for somebody in another city. Maybe it's just sitting on your phone and talking to them. Maybe you're sitting in your car, sitting in your house, sitting in your office, but you're just talking to the person voice to voice on the phone. Maybe it's a video meeting. You're on Zoom or Teams or Google Chat or whatever it is you use, FaceTime, whatever it is you use to talk to somebody, but you're sitting there one-on-one talking to somebody. And it's just about the conversation there and now. It's not about elevator pitches. It's not about small talk. It's not about how many business cards you can collect so that you can go send follow-up emails later. What if you saw it like that? What if you thought about it like that? Would you feel differently about networking? Would you be more likely to actually do it? Because this mental image we have really drives how we feel about things, right? If you think about it as I described it the first time with the big room full of people, you're probably like, I don't want to do that. But if you change your mental image, if you change how you see networking, if you just think about it as a conversation with one other person where you're going to be interested in them and they're going to be interested in you, and you're both going to ask each other questions, and you're going to share some information about yourself, and you're going to try to help each other. Maybe you're going to introduce this person to somebody else. Maybe they're going to introduce you to somebody else. If you do it like that, it becomes a little bit more approachable. And this is something we do in everything in our lives, right? Whether it's you're going to start working out or you're going to start doing a presentation, how you think about how it's going to go, how you visualize that is going to have a lot to do with how you feel about doing it and whether you're really willing to go out and do it. So I go back to sort of like the idea of working out or fitness or going to the gym. If you think about it as like, oh my gosh, I'm going to hate doing this. This is going to be terrible. It's going to be painful. I don't want to do it. I'm going to be sore afterwards. And you visualize yourself in all those situations, you're probably not going to want to do it, or you're going to find a way to not do it. But if you just think of it as all I got to do is walk through the door at the gym. That's it. I'm just going to go walk through the door. We'll see what happens when I get there. If you change kind of how you think about it and just kind of go with it, you're more likely to at least get to the gym and maybe give it a little bit of effort. Usually once you get there, you get better at it and you're glad you went. I mean, I know half the time I don't want to go to the gym or work out, but 100% of the time I feel better after I did. Same thing with networking. I'm going to say I'm the introverted networker, and there are days when I'm like, I don't want to reach out to anybody. I do not want to send that note to that person I've lost touch with and say, how are you doing? I do not want to follow up and schedule that call, that voice-to-voice conversation. I don't want to, I'll see meetings on my calendar that's like me having a conversation with somebody. And I'm like, oh, I don't feel like having a conversation today. But I know it's just a conversation. And once I start having that conversation, I'm probably going to walk away feeling pretty good about it, as long as I get in there and sort of start. So here's what I want you to do this week. I want you to think of networking, but don't think of it as an event you have to go to. Think about it as a conversation you get to have with another person. So pick somebody you already know, send them a message, ask how they're doing, and say, let's talk. Let's spend 15 or 30 minutes talking. I would really love to catch up with you, find out what's going on, just kind of get back in touch so we know what we're both working on. And do that. And from there, when you get that on your calendar, show up and be curious and ask them what they're working on. And when you do that, that's networking. Change the image that pops into your head when you think about networking, and you are more likely to do it. Hopefully that helps. I hope you like the story I shared. It's a story that I hadn't really thought about it as much until recently. And then I was like, oh yeah, that was really this time when I felt really, really low about my job search. I just lost my job. I had just gotten laid off. I was feeling terrible about it. I had gone to this networking event and I was like, this is going to be miserable. And I really started thinking about that and realized that was a turning point for me. And so I've been sharing that story more and more, and I hope it kind of connected with you in terms of maybe you haven't had that exact experience, but you've had a similar experience with networking. But you don't have to network that way. You don't have to go to events. You don't have to be around people you don't want to be around. You can network in your own way. You can network on your own schedule. You can network in your own space, meaning like, do you want to do it on video, in person, however you want to do it, and with your own style. How much of this do you want to do? What do you want to bring? And what do you want to share? It's all up to you. So it's sort of taking control of networking, but it all starts with changing your image of networking from a big event to a conversation you get to have with another person. So try that out this week. See if it makes a difference. If it does, let me know. If you're still struggling, let me know where your challenges are. I'm here to help. Subscribe to the newsletter, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave me a comment, send me an email. Let me know what you're struggling with. I'm here to help. Go out this week, meet some interesting people. And remember, always be connecting.